was rougher than I thought it was going to be. Being a Marine, thinking Army schools are all pogue and whatever, and they weren't. It was a pretty good school. Got a really good education out of it. Um, got my EMT basic license, my national registry license out of that, and I moved back to Chicago. What I kind of found was I fell in love with medicine. It was weird. I was like, I really like this. So I got a job on a private ambulance, just doing on a BLS ambulance, basic life support, EMT basics, doing some very basic stuff between nursing homes, things along those lines, very low speed. But it was a really good learning experience if you really wanted to learn how to be a good practitioner of medicine. That was a great place to go. You didn't see a lot of super interesting stuff, but you got to do a lot of patient interactions. You got to learn how to manage an ambulance, moving patients, doing all the things that go along with it. But again, anybody who tells you they really like being in the private ambulance business probably isn't being 100% honest. You're the lowest of the low kind of deal in treatment. Not that the people I worked with were awesome, but the hospitals didn't treat you well. The facilities didn't treat you well. It was a hard place to stay, especially as an EMT basic. So 98, I decided to go to paramedic school at Loyola, and a great program. For my money, it's one of the best ones in the area. Very focused on a lot of the skill, the knowledge based stuff. I mean, obviously Malcolm 10 in the city had the Chicago Fire Department ride days, so they had the best ride time. But the academics were really strong at Loyola, so I went there, and almost immediately I went to the fire academy. I got hired by a contract company, so a lot of fire departments they want to have ambulances, but they don't want to have their firefighters man them. So what they do sometimes is they'll hire contract firefighter paramedics to ride those ambulances. And so basically, you're out of the firehouse, you're working with a shift, but all you really do is ride the ambulance. You can backfill a little bit on the fire stuff, but the firefighters at those places wanted to do it. So I got hired by companies that did that. Started out in Bensonville, Illinois, and then from there I went to Wheaton, and then for a little while I was at North Lake. Simultaneously, I worked at a small town, Stone Park. You may have heard of it. They were mostly famous for the 10 o'clock bar, closing at 10 o'clock in the morning, kind of deal. But it was a great place. It was all part time, but still you could get full time shifts there. Met some incredible people there. Got to do some firefighting work and whatever, and yeah, so that was pretty awesome. And then what finally happened for me was the Chicago Fire Department called. And I was a single role paramedic for a little bit less than a year. I was on ambulance 10. If you're a West Side guy, West End Pulaski is where that ambulance is out of, straight West Side medicine. It was the busiest ambulance in the United States the year that I was on it, which it very often is. Although in reality, Chicago is as understaffed. Let's just put it politely, as understaffed as everybody else is. Ambulances, especially, there are no quiet ambulances really in the city of Chicago. There's maybe one or two, but by and large, the load volume that, for my money, hardest working people in the city of Chicago, Chicago fire paramedics. So I did that for a little less than a year. It was an amazing opportunity. It was an amazing year to be there, but I was ready to be done with it. I got a lot of friends who did 10, 12 years on that rig, and I don't even know how they did it. I don't even know. It was amazing. Chicago Police called, and so I was happy to bounce. I was in the 0403 class, and did the academy, no problems. Went to the 15th district, very average 15th district copper. I was not Serpico. I was not out there. I wasn't one of the high speed, low drag dudes. But I did all right. It was fun. I worked at the old Fort Forgotten before they moved the station over, so it was kind of cool to be part of that old tradition. The old
building. Yeah, I was there too.
Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, it was fun, and then but then 2006. So this is a funny story. When they were still moving us to they moved me to Summer Mobile and whatever else, I got assigned to the Air and Water Show, and they put me with a bunch of peace demonstrators. I had to protect the peace demonstrators, and this guy that looked like Michael Moore was just screeching the whole time. It's not so fun when they're dropping bombs on you. And that's all he said the whole air show. And I was literally like, this guy's driving me crazy. But then I was starting to think, and I was like, you know what, man, if this war's going on and, this guy's protesting it and I'm mad at him, well, how do I really know? I mean, I haven't been over there. So I had just gotten married. I got married in I got married in 2005, in October 15th of 2005. So we had not been married for long. And I decided I'm going to go talk to a recruiter and I'm going to go to Iraq. So I find an Army National Guard recruiter and I walk up to this guy and I'm like, hey, do you have any units going to Iraq anytime in the near future or whatever else? He goes, this would be kind of stupid. But I'm a cop, so he's pretty cool with me. He goes, yeah, I think, we may be, do you have you been in it before? Or like, I was a medic, I'm, MOS qualified. And he goes, well, let me find out if there's a billet for a medic. I'm like, well, if there is, I'll enlist Monday. Like, he's like, serious? I'm like, no, I'm dead serious. So he calls me up and he's like, yeah, there's a billet. There's a sergeant billet for a medic at Alpha, first for the 178 Infantry out of Jones Armory. If you want it, you sign up for it. So went home, talked to my wife, and I kind of almost basically told her, yeah, I'm just enlisting. And I have to give her credit. She is an amazing person for putting up with my tomfoolery. Because not only when this is going on was all this radical change happening, but she was pregnant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So of course, the nation's hurt. They're hurting for people at this point. I breezed through MEPS like nothing you've ever seen in your life. Like, they couldn't get me through MEPS fast enough. I think basically as long as I had 2 arms, 2 legs, and a pulse, they were going to move me through that thing quick, fast, in a hurry, and they surely did. They wasted no time. And so, working up with the 178, and so my wife, when I wound up deploying, when I wound up going, and we did workups because we're a guard unit, so we clearly were not ready to deploy directly to combat. So we did a workup period. It was about 4 or 5 months long. I was advon for it, which kind of sucked, but whatever. But I left my wife 3 months pregnant, go to this advon. We went to Fort Dix, New Jersey, which is the butthole of the United States Army.
I'll be there. I'll be there on Wednesday night.
Oh my Lord, I'm so sorry. Some people argue Fort Polk or whatever. I've never been there. I'm just going to tell you, Dix.
I've been to both, and for Dix is.
Yeah, Dix is not my favorite spot on the planet. So do our workups, no big deal, easy peasy. And then we deployed to Iraq, obviously. We got there right during the surge. It was 06, 07. So we hit the ground right when things were really starting to spice up over there. So it was a long, interesting year. It was an interesting one. So my wife wind up having a little bit premature with my son. So I get the Red Cross message.
Right.
So I get pulled out. It's kind of weird. You're on mission one day, and then literally I'm flying home, and I'm home in like 3 days. It was really weird. And you talk to the guys that were in Vietnam, and that happened a lot, where they would chopper those guys literally out of a firefight, put them on a plane, fly them to California, push you through that whole big factory thing where you got a steak meal, new uniform, pay your paperwork, and they pushed you out the back, and you were in a firefight, 36 hours ago, 72 hours ago, and it was kind of like that with me. It was weird. That was one of the weirdest positions of the whole conflict for me, was coming back for that. I just kind of hit, and then all of a sudden my head's, is my kid gonna be okay? Blah 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 blah. He's born fine, no problems. My wife, trooper, she holds off on naming him till I get there and everything else. So I was not the first person to hold my son, unfortunately, but I just tell people the 2 moments in your life that you're a different person. For me, the 2 moments in my life was when I held my son for the first time, and then the first time somebody shot at me. Like, not near me, not around me, but somebody shot at me. Like, you're a different person in 1 second of your life to the next second of your life. And for me, those were the 2 moments where I was a completely different person. But, so I was home for Christmas. Saddam got... So our mission over there initially was we were tasked with providing external security for Saddam Hussein. Like, there was a 101st Airborne group of guys that actually close watched him. We were the guards around him. And then when he actually wound up getting executed, I got back and we started catching real missions at that point. We were doing some stuff in the red zone. We were working with the Central Criminal Courts of Iraq, moving detainees around and back and forth. We had some other missions with some third country nationals out doing some stuff, doing some route reconnaissance work, things along those lines. So it got busy after Christmas, which was really the wrong time for that to happen, because that's when the whole surge really kicked off. And I don't care what anybody says, about Petraeus. I think that guy is a legend. He came in and it was like night and day with the change of the rules of engagement and the idea that we were going to stop taking ground, pulling in, and actually moving to neighborhoods and hold them. Fortunately, my unit didn't get tasked. We were not landowners. We were attached to an MP battalion, so we did all their outside the wire missions. Like because we were a rifle company. It was good for them, and a lot of their unit was tied into detainee ops, which we were not. Thank goodness, because that was a horrific mission. I mean, anywhere you did it, whether it was Gitmo or whatever, the good Lord bless those folks, because that was challenging in a way that I can't even really wrap my head around. But we got out there and we put some work in, and then we came home, and I thought they did a good job on bringing us home. Like I thought, again, you talk about the guys that came back from Vietnam and how traumatic those experiences were coming back. For us, we did left seat, right seat rides with the California National Guard unit that was taking over our mission. So eventually, guys, you got to kind of hand off the mission to them. Then we sat around in Baghdad for a week or so, theoretically waiting, but in reality, they were just kind of letting us chill for a little while. Then we flew to Kuwait, sat in Kuwait Ali Salim, which is the only McDonald's that I'm aware of on a U.S. base. Usually it's always Burger King, but this actually had a McDonald's with the old school apple pies. So what we would do is the line was so long, we would just get in line and we'd go eat, and then we'd just get back at the end of the line because there was nothing else to do. They were just letting us chill out for a while, which was, if you think about it, brilliant. Let guys who fought together stay together, unwind a little bit, don't really have them do much of anything, just enough to keep you busy, not crazy amount of time on your hands. And then from there, we flew back to Fort Dix where we did our demo, and then we flew back to Chicago and went to the Four Winds, which again was a little weird because most Army units would stay together or Marine units would stay together, but the Reserve or National Guard components, once they got back, they kept you for a couple of days, but then you're back to the whole thing.
So you received a Bronze Star Medal and a Combat Medical Badge during that time. So what do those honors represent to you, and how does that recognition mean to you personally and professionally?
So at the end of the day, I'm going to be completely above board on this. That was not a Valor Award Bronze Star. It was a meritorious Bronze Star, but it was in aggregate for the things I did. I was an E5, and that was a pretty unusual end-of-tour award for an E5. And they gave it to me because they really weren't giving out Valor Awards to National Guard units very often at that time frame. So I'm very proud of having gotten the award. The Combat Medic Badge, on the other hand, is I'm super proud of that because it's the Army had 3 badges. They had the Combat Infantryman's Badge, the Combat Action Badge, and the Combat Medic Badge. And the only way you get a Combat Medic Badge is by literally being in a firefight and rendering aid during ground combat operations while you're being actively engaged. So it's one of those awards where a lot of people go down range, and and no shame to them, no embarrassment. They're skivvy folders. They stay on the fob. They have nice air-conditioned hooches or whatever. They don't really go outside. They don't mix it up. But that badge really, to me, was showed the fact that I actually went over there and did my job. And it was a difficult one. I love being a medic. It's probably the best job on the planet for my money. I just, being a medic was incredible. I tell people there's 3 titles I've had in my life that have meant more than anything to me, and that's Marine, Doc, and Dad. I mean, I don't think you could get three better things than that. But yeah, those were the big ones. But I'm going to be honest with you. All the ribbons and all the decorations and all the whatever that you get on there, all your campaign ribbons and all the other stuff. For me, 2 of the platoon sergeants that I worked with over there pulled me aside when we were in Kuwait and were like, listen, when you were with my guys, I knew they were going to be okay. Like, I knew you were going to take care of my guys. And listen, man, that's more than all the ribbons and whatever and everything in your chest. And I try to, my father passed away when I was in over there again. And it was hard. I mean, it was weird because I had said my goodbyes with the thought process that I may not come home. But then for him to get sick, and it looked like he was going to do okay, and then he passed, and we had medics that were already home on rotation. They were on their regular scheduled R&R. So the company XO was like, listen, we just got a Red Cross message for you. So like, you can go, but if you do, one of our platoons is going to have to go out without a medic. And I called my mother, and she was like, your dad would want you to stay. Like, you just stay there and take care of your guys. So I was not there when he passed, but I felt like it was important that I not abandon my guys. Like, there's nothing I could do for my dad really, but for my guys, I could not conscious the idea of them going out during the surge into Baghdad and then not have a medic along with them. So, guys reciprocated that. They appreciated the fact that I did stuff like that. And to me, that was where that's where my reward was at more than anything else. We had another guy that, and again, so the second coolest moment of my life, the coolest moment of my life ever, holding my son. One of my buddies over there got badly hurt when we were over there. And he wound up losing both his legs. And I remember we tourniqueted his legs up and we got him in the rig and we casevaced him to the 20th Combat Support Hospital, which for my money, best hospital on the planet. If you brought a guy there with a heartbeat, that guy was going to live. They were that good. So I dropped him off there, everybody's whatever. And then, the second coolest moment of my life was watching him walk down the aisle on 2 fake legs to get married. He's got kids now. Great story. But again, those are the things that mean more to me. I mean, you can give me all the, the other thing too is weird for you as a medic. Like all the grunts in my unit wanted to get their combat infantry badge. They all wanted that badge. They wanted that badge. The guys who weren't infantry wanted that combat action. But the medics, we all were talking like, we know you want it. Because the only way that you get a combat medic badge is if your guys get hit. So we're the only award where one of you guys, and then the same thing goes for Valor Awards. Like, man, I don't want a Valor Award. Because you see a medic with a silver star, he buried some of his friends. I mean, maybe he saved a bunch of them, but at the end of the day, I was just not into the whole, if I had not gotten any kind of Valor Awards or decorations or anything, I would have been completely fine with it. But again, you see, and again, a lot of things happen out there that people don't, you never get awarded for. My particular example was we were at the Central Criminal Courts of Iraq towards the end of our tour, and we got mortared. And a couple of the guys got hit out there. So if you were inside the building, you only wore a light bulletproof vest, like you didn't wear all the heavy armor just because it was so uncomfortable and so, whatever. So once I heard guys were hit, I come running out of the building with no armor, no helmet, no nothing to go render aid. So there's still mortar rounds that are falling. I'm working on this guy, and all of a sudden I feel this like weight on my back. And I'm like, and I look at this guy, I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, Doc, you're not wearing any armor. This guy literally put himself during an active mortar attack, ran out to me from his position of cover, and covered me with his body while I worked on this casualty. And no awards. I didn't get an award for that. He didn't get an award for that. Nobody got an award for that. But that's the kind of heroism I think you probably saw over there every single day. Like they talk about how every day in a war, a lot of men earn medals, and then sometimes they actually get awarded. But again, for me, that was one of my moments where this guy was willing to leave his position of cover, come to me, and put himself in a position of enormous risk to put his body between me and the mortars the same way that I put my body between them and the casualty. Wow. Those are the moments that, again, you can look at snapshots, you can look at awards, you can look at decorations, but at the end of the day, those are the moments that stick to me.
You got home?
Yeah, I got home and back to the grind. So I get back to the academy and the boss is over there, and so I'm like slipping and sliding because I'm retreading through. And the commander is like, they're like, oh, you have to take the commander to City Hall. I'm like, dude, I don't want to. Come on, man. I'm like, no, you got to do it. So I pick him up, and we're driving to We're driving to City Hall, rather. And he's like, who are you? I'm like, oh, I'm Brian Bardsley. I'm retreading. And he's like, retreading for what? I'm like, I just got back from Iraq. He's like, tell me about your background. I tell him about my background, and he's like, you want to be an academy instructor? I'm like, boss, I get like 18 months of the job, like 2 years. Like, he goes, no, I'm going to move you to Tara. I don't know if you remember the old Terrorism Awareness and Response Academy at the old near North. And I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, sure. If you're going to pull the seat out for me. So I was at the academy. It was awesome. I did Tara for a couple of years. I got to do a little bit of TTU, moved over to the range, taught carbine, taught rifle, pistol, mainline, and recruits. I got to be a homeroom instructor. Like, it was an awesome, just utility infielder kind of thing. Just got to do a lot of cool stuff, meet a lot of cool people. Again, felt like I was making a pretty good, making a lot of friends and making a difference. I mean, I felt like that was kind of where I could help impart knowledge on people. And then in 2013, Brendan Hartford was one of the medics over there at SWAT, and they were trying to redo. They kind of had a failed program on the medical side of the house over there, and he's like, "Hey, you want to come over here and be our medic and our WMD guy and help us kind of rebuild this thing?" Because Brendan kind of had the same mindset that I did, but not my pedigree. He was a super smart dude, still is a super smart dude. And we kind of put this thing together. We built it off the Ranger Regiment exemplar, where we have, everybody's trained to the not first responder, but self-aid buddy aid level. Then we train in-house. We train operators to the EMT basic level. And then we had paramedics that were kind of the higher functioning sort of medics. System works out awesome. I mean, every time that we've had an issue, in the 13 years that I've been on the SWAT team, every time that there's been a medical issue come up, my guys or myself or my guys, mostly my guys, have handled it flawlessly. So I think we put a good broad together, and I think that, that's been it. And then here I am now with hopefully 2.5, 3 months before I pull the plug, and 55, 21 years on the job, about ready to, move on to other things.
So you live both lives, fire service, law enforcement, cultures. What are the biggest similarities and differences in those brotherhoods?
Boy, that's a great question. So here's one of the big things about it. So one of the big differences is this. When you go to the police academy, you're taught what? You're a lone wolf. You're out there, trust nobody. You go out there, this is my scene, this is my car, this is my house. We're going to go out there, you and your partner, or you 99, you're going to go out, you're going to rock it out, whatever. And that's inculcated into your mindset the whole time, that you're this kind of lone wolf, super strong, super tough, independent. On the fire side of the house, you immediately get put into what they call engine companies in the academy. And you're like 4 dudes or 4 guys and gals that are together, and then you do everything together. You look out for one another, blah, blah, blah. Then you go to the firehouse. Like for us, roll call is you go in, everybody's got their cup of coffee. Back in the day, they had their old newspapers. They had little Sun-Times. That was on their phones. But, maybe you're hanging out with your partner or a couple of cliques or whatever. But by and large, it's a room full of individuals. Not that guys don't care about each other, but you're definitely a bunch of individuals in the room. You go to a firehouse, man, the first thing you do is go in and get a cup of coffee, sit at the kitchen table with the guys on your engine company, your truck company, whatever, drink some coffee, talk some trash, you know what I mean? And then you go out together, you work on stuff, you work on the vehicles, you do your training, but it's always as a group. You go on a run, it's a crappy run, you come back, you sit around the firehouse table, you talk about it, you kind of whatever. So there's a world of difference of the team element on the fire side versus the kind of the lone wolf side on the police department, where you're kind of like, you may never know what your other beat guys are doing. Like, I don't know what 1511's doing. I don't care. I'm 1521. Whatever. So that's a huge difference in the two worlds of how you think of yourself as a member of a team versus a member of a beat and things like that. But I think the similarity is the idea that I'm trying to think what a good word for it. The way people are so modestly brave with what they do. There's a lot of flippant attitudes. There's a lot of dark humor. But at the end of the day, when rubber hits the road, these are guys and gals ready to go put some work in. Whether it's a 10-1, or whether you're chasing somebody with a gun, or it's a building on fire and you're going after a kid or whatever else. All these things that happen, there's a switch that the people can flip that are good at this business on both sides, that kind of go from being that normal person to being almost, I hate to be melodramatic, but it's kind of a superhero kind of thing, where they do things that most people would never do. There's a guy with a gun over there, I'm going to run the other direction. Coppers run to it. You see a building on fire, rats are bailing out of the building, and you're kitting up and going in there. So I think that's the similarity, is that, there's different tools. Some guys use pistols, some gals use hoses, whatever. But at the end of the day, the mindset that you are willing to do an incredibly dangerous job for somebody that you have never met is, to me, that's where the real similarity between those two gigs is.
I agree. So you have taught tactical medicine at Loyola, University Medical Center, and presented at national conferences. What drives your passion for teaching the next generation of first responders?
So, and here's something I can't remember, I was applying for a job a while ago, and I was and I was trying to do my elevator pitch. And what really struck me is when I looked back on everything I've done in my life, from the Marine Corps to the Army to the fire department to Loyola to this to that, the common thread was being a teacher. Like, as much as being whatever a warrior, although I hate that term, we've beaten that term to death. But being in the profession of arms or whatever, even more so than that, it's been being a teacher. Like, that's something I've done, and my passion for it is simply because when I tell people, if I see farther, people are like, oh, you're a great instructor, or you know all this stuff. Not everybody, but most people say that. And I tell people, if I see farther, it's because I stand on the shoulders of giants. There's people out there that, from my partner, Brendan Hartford, he's talking a couple of his things are, never let your scope of practice limit your scope of knowledge. Knowledge doesn't cost anything in your aid bag. A guy named Pete Lazara, what a legend. Beth Froelich, one of those people that was on Ambulance 10 for 12, 13, 14 years. Just a real knowledge base. And all these people that taught me to be able to make a difference out there. And that's what I feel like I've been fortunate in my life, in my operational side of the house, when I'm doing things. I've always been able to make the right decision, knock on wood. I've never made the wrong call. I've always done well. And that's only a reflection of how well I was taught. The fact that people cared. They took me under their wing. They taught me these things, and not just the book, but the stuff you don't learn in the book. And that's been every phase of my life. My FTO, we went into my only time I've ever pulled anybody out of a burning building was as a PPO. Me and my FTO, we went in after somebody. Again, I learned so much from these people that I feel like that now my job, especially as I'm starting to get a little older, that maybe it's my job to now, rather than be that person, because I'm 55 years old. SWAT's a bunch of young bucks, and they're all in really good shape. It's kind of hard to keep up with them sometimes. So maybe now my thing isn't going to be being the action guy. Now my job is to teach people to be able to learn those lessons that I've learned, that other people have taught me, that I've seen, and so that hopefully when their time comes, that their platoon leaders tell them. And I've had team leaders on the SWAT team tell me the same thing. Like, when I look back and I see you at the back of the stack, like, I'm willing to push a little bit harder. I know we're going to be taken care of. I'm willing to risk a little bit more. We know we're going to get taken care of, and that's what I want other people to get. That's fine for me, but my job now is to impart that on other people so they get to make that difference. They get to see their friend walk down the aisle. They get to have a team leader or a platoon sergeant tell them that they were the thing that kept them calm in a mass casualty situation or something like that. And that's my passion, is driving. It's just to pay it forward for the people that have taken care of me.
I agree. It's good. So after decades of service across so many fields, military, fire, EMS, police, how do you define duty beyond duty?
That's a really good question. I probably should have thought about that more. I think for us, I think a lot of that is what I was just talking about to a certain degree. Like, I'm also a peer support guy. And as an older dude, I was older than a lot of the dudes. I was probably the oldest E5 sergeant in Iraq. I was 35 years old as a buck sergeant, which is fine as a medic. It doesn't really matter. But I was way older than these kids, and they would go out and they'd get into an engagement or something, and they would want to talk. So I got used to talking to people. So I think our duty beyond duty on that is not just what we do, but kind of who we are. We live in a world where now also we're so judged when we're outside on the mirror. We have to do more. Like, we've got to be somebody that sees us out there at all of our moments. So that's why I'm always trying to do a little bit more. I'm trying to reach out. I'm trying to make sure that from a mental health standpoint, how horrible is America's mental health system right now? And then you break that all the way down to law enforcement in general, and Chicago in particular. How many emails have we gotten this year? Like 5? It's ridiculous. We all know somebody who's sleeping under polished marble today. So, I think you have to have the courage sometimes to not just, listen, I'm not going to say it's easy. Like, my father-in-law was never an action guy. He was never a warrior. Right? But he lived a great life. He grew a lot of kids. He was one of those guys on quiet. People would need help, he helped them. People needed a job, he got them a job. He's one of those guys. And for me, I feel like, to a certain degree, Courage in the heat of the moment is one thing. I see a wounded guy, I go out there and I treat him under fire. That's a split second of courage. But the kind of courage I think my father-in-law showed is a different kind of courage entirely. The courage of doing the right thing every day when it's not sexy and it's not public and it's not whatever, but you do it because it's the right thing. I think that's the courage. The courage to not, I think my guys know that I'm coming after if they get hit, but I'm also willing to tell them that, hey, it's okay to not be okay. Like, if you need help, we're going to get you help. I would never leave you bleeding to death in the battlefield. Why would I leave you in the break room? Why would I leave you in the locker room? If I know you're hurt and something bad's happening, you got all this stuff going on, why would I leave you then? And that's the courage sometimes you need to have. We all expect people to have courage with the suits on and your game face is on. But the courage I think we need to have beyond that is the courage to do things that maybe are outside of our comfort zone or things that we're not used to, and taking care of people, and then being that image that people see us out there. Because people, all they see is the bad. So rarely do they see the enormous amount of good that we do all the time. And I think for me, that's what I would think about it is do the job, do the deed, right? Of course, not for the glory, but for the deed. But then from there, the extra stuff that make you an all-around team player, team asset. I think that's what I would think about that.
I agree. So what advice would you give young women and men and women who are considering life of public servant?
I would say make sure you're going into it for the right reasons. For the 9/11 generation, there's a bunch of people that went to paramedic school after 9/11 or went to law enforcement. They went in for all the wrong reasons sometimes. They thought they were going to be a hero. They thought they were going to do this. They thought they were going to do that. Listen, it's hard work. I mean, it's rewarding. Like, I'm going to walk out of here with a pension that's worth a lot of money. I'm going to be able to leave at 55 with an $80,000-ish pension every year and my health care and everything else. I mean, that's a pretty decent deal, but you pay the freight going for it. So what I tell people, I would tell them is make sure this is something that you want to do. Make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, because if you don't, it's not going to be worth it. If you want a job that when you're laying on your deathbed, you're not going to have to look back and wonder if you made a difference. This will be the job for it. But again, make sure that you're not going into it for stupid reasons, that a lot of the best work you're going to do is never going to be sexy. And I tell people this all the time. Some of the best medicine I practiced in my life, and I've done some pretty cool stuff. Like I've been on, SWAT teams, military, blah, 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 blah. Man, holding an old lady's hand who was scared, going to the hospital at 2 o'clock in the morning, might have been some of the best medicine I practiced my whole career. If you don't look at it like that, then maybe don't get into an ambulance. If you want to do Rescue 911, you want to do one of these TV shows, man, don't do this, find something else to do. But if you're about service above self, and things like that matter to you, man, these are the best gigs. Any one of those. Fire, police, EMS, all great gigs.
I agree. So Brian, we're almost done. So I have a little thing that I do on the show that I do quick fire questions. So I call this one Beyond the Bash questions. So answer what first comes to mind. Coffee or energy drink before you?
Coffee all day.
Tougher to work in desert heat or Chicago winter?
Man, Chicago winter.
Favorite piece of gear you ever use?
M4 rifle.
One song that always gets you in the zone.
Let the bodies hit the floor.
If you could relive one proud career moment, which one would it be?
Watching my friend walk down the aisle again.
Favorite part of teaching tactical medicine?
My favorite part of that is again pushing it forward.
Who will play you in a movie about your life?
Wow, I don't know. I have no idea. I couldn't even hazard a guess off the top of my head.
It's okay. If you were in public safety, what career would you have pursued?
Aviation.
One quote or motto you live by?
Wow, that's a good one. One more.
How do you personally recharge after the chaos of service?
I try to read, listen to music, read, chill.
So from the battlefields to the streets of Chicago, Brian Bardsley has lived the true meaning of service before self. He's proved the courage isn't about the uniform you wear, it's about the heart that never stops serving. Brian, thank you for showing us what it means to live duty beyond duty. And again, guys, thank you for the show. And to next time.
Awesome. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Let's see if he plays. This is my question only. I got to check because the last time I'm done. let's go to the back and smoke cigars and whatever. I did one with 4 officers. And then when I checked, it shows, well, actually, it shows on my spike kind of thing. And I didn't hear it. And I'm like,
Oh, cool. So you did the whole thing and none of it recorded?
That one was like 3 hours because that one is, I thought of an idea. Well, actually, my kids gave me the idea. That's when the Cubs did a thing for Puerto Rican International Day, whatever they wanted to call it.
Right.
And somebody from Humboldt Park made a design for a jersey with the flag. My kids know that. I'm like, look, don't forget, like, yeah, we're proud of our roots, but I would never wear a flag like that, I wouldn't even wear an American flag. I go, yes, if it's a patch.
Sure. Yep. I'm the same way.
But then I go, but why don't you get us a jersey? And I go, okay, I'll get you the jersey if you tell me why you're proud of being Puerto Rican. And they stood quiet, and I'm like, okay. My head started like brewing. I go, I should do an episode. And then since I run the Puerto Rican Fair, I go,
yep.
I'll do one talking about Puerto Rico history, Chicago Puerto Rican history, why the flags are there. A lot of people don't know why the flags are there. And then I did one. That one was like a 15-minute episode. And then I did one with them. My daughter cracked me also. I think we did it for like 40, 50 minutes. We had to edit it to like 30.
That's cool.
Because I asked her, why you proud to be Puerto Rican? And I go, like, how are you? Because we're ghetto. I go, where did you get ghetto from? Oh, babe, we're done.
Of all the words you could have used, that was the one you picked. Oh.
And but it touched me. So and then I did one with the guy that makes this Humboldt Boulevard. They have this Humboldt Boulevard T-shirt. Well, I knew the kid for 25 years. Well, I have him here. We're talking. I didn't know that kid played at Roberto Clemente High School and got scouted as a pitcher for the Boston Red Sox.
That's awesome. I'm a huge Red Sox fan. That's awesome.
Because every time I did my research on him, it popped up, but he thought it was like his dad. And I was like, oh man, but your dad? I never knew. My son just asked. Brian.
Hi, nice to meet you. I was gonna say, like, nice hoodie. That's awesome.
I wanted to test it out because my friend did. I was the guy that does the hoodies. He said, I'm gonna make you some. And I go, well, dude, it has to be my design that I told him. And then I told him to put a QR code in the back. But I was thinking of something like stupid, so for somebody to be like, fuck, I gotta scan it. So he put scan, but follow me. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna put fuck your ass or something. Because they gotta scan. So when they scan it, they get the podcast.
Yep.
But, and I posted it on social media. And I'll get,
oh, there you go. All right.
Give me one. We'll see. This is the testing waters phase. So then I was on. I give everybody a challenge code.
Oh, awesome. Thanks. I totally love. I'm a complete.
So this is a new 10th district coin.
Awesome. Oh, thank you very much.
And then we got to take a picture. You sign our picture. Last time. Very good. Let's go over there. You see me walking by? So I did that. I was not paying attention to that.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yes, like I talked to a lot of the coppers that I know. Like I kept meeting so many cops that were first responders. Like, man, I haven't seen. Oh, Joe, recording. Still recording. Yeah. Top, right? Top, yeah, and then the bonus.